Mabrika, Mabrika, Mabrika. Welcome. I greet you in the Taino language, tone, which is Mabrika, Mabrika, Mabrika. Okay. Just wanted to say that this podcast is an introduction because when we deal with this energy, there's so much happening and there's a lot of focus on this energy center. Excuse me one second. There's a lot of focus on this energy center in this day and time. You know what I'm saying? And because we've been bombarded by music and by the mediums of movie, moving pictures and stuff like that. So it affected, you know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of concentration on this energy center for a specific reason, you know what I'm saying? And so uh, I asked ahead of time that all those of us that are like minded, who are trying to go online, those that are going online as to become progenitors of as to become initiators of this reality, what we call this new, it's an ancient reality, but that it's being renewed, this renewed reality that we all is partaking of, that at the end of this podcast, your that energy center is going to be satisfied. All your energy centers are going to be satisfied, and that we're all going to quest for more truth. Because, like I said, I don't know everything. I'm learning, just like any of us. We're experiencing human experiences, and I hope that we can reach this truth. Again, truth is all the puzzles, pieces of the puzzle fitting perfectly together. When you have a puzzle and all the pieces fit perfectly together, that is truth. Falsehood is the opposite. The pieces, things just don't add up. So we have to constantly take bits and pieces and pieces. Like I always say, everything is half truth, and you have to take these bits and pieces and fit it together. And it all is a system. Truth is a system that it perfectly fit all together, no matter which way you cut it in slices. It's like the ocean. You have a big ocean. No matter you extract, what drops you extract from the ocean, piece of it is gonna still have the property of that ocean. You know what I'm saying? So just looking at it like that as an example. Um, Also, our ancient ones have already left us papyruses and stones and artifacts that help us in obtaining certain, truth. You know what I'm saying? Experiences that they've been through. You know what I'm saying? And so they left guidance to us. So, so and I'm grateful for that. We should be grateful for that. We should all look into these tablets. We all should look into and sort of like see if we could fit those pieces also together, perfectly fitting pieces to arrive, ascertain the truth. You know what I'm saying? Um, there have been many different guides along the way. You know what I'm saying? I always listen to these masters teach. These masters, they're the one that left these papyruses and stones, and there are folklores and stories, and so we have to also be aware of that, and we have to and even in the present day time, there have been many messengers, but like I said, everything is half truth. When we fit neatly fit it together with our experiences and other experiences, we arrive at a haha moment, a truth. So, you know knowledge, wisdom, you know, standing to reason. When you have knowledge of certain things, and the wisdom is the experience that you use as knowledge, and then you stand to reason it because you have that wisdom and you have that knowledge, you break that spell, what they call that hypnotic, that sunken fallacies. You break those fallacies because now you're able to deductively, inductively, stand to reason certain things, and then you get to recognize, because when we speak, we're speaking narratives, we're speaking tones and narratives, we're speaking in languages that we're trying to express our inner self by using these tones that sometimes it might not even come out the way we need it to come out. But that's when it takes, the knowledge, the wisdom, your own personal knowledge, your wisdom, and your standing to reason, so that you can break that sunken fallacies and all those other logical fallacies that exist. Because it's all narratives. We're all speaking in narratives, in tones, and we carry on a lot of words and ideas that we read, and we're thinking that it's coming from us, but it's not. It's coming from an outside source. You know what I'm saying? That's why meditation is so important. Meditate and having reverence for natural nature and getting in tune with it. Um, we're grateful for that. Let us all say that we're grateful for that. You know what I'm saying? And so let me open up this window. It's nice. It was raining, raining, raining out here. I'm in North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina. It was raining, raining. But now, after it bombarded us with rain, now the sun comes out. Those are our protectors. That's natural nature. You know what I'm saying? That's nature doing its thing and constantly doing its thing. So now the sun is out. It's beautiful. The trees are so green. I love it because this morning I got this pine tree right next to my window. So this morning I see the glistening. I guess because of the mist, the glistening, and it was like pine. It was like lit up in different colors. And I was like, "That's beautiful." So it woke me up in a very nice temperament, because I'm like, I was looking at out my window, looking at nature and listening. The cricket, the birds, and the cricket, everything was loud. And I was like, "Whoa!" It was so lively and so natural and lively. I was like, yeah, you know, part of it. I'm part of it. Hold on one second. Give me 1 second. Let me open up this window. Um, like I said, I always sit by my window. Oh man. Ah, it smells good. I'm always by my window. And I say, that's my TV. Well, it's not my tele vision. It's my truth alive vision. My truth vision. It's my vision. And I sit. A lot of times I sit out here and I contemplate. I look at the animals. I got a lot of trees around me. It's beautiful, 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 beautiful. I enjoy it, and the sound. I listen to the birds and stuff like that. But anyway, um, the earlier podcast that I've done, we discussed about the Earth, which is the bottom of the nine, the Earth energy center, and that deals with ancestral patterns and genetic blueprints, right? And so we see how that affects, and how if it's out of balance, it can also affect the other energy centers. But when that's balanced, when you know your genetic blueprint and your ancestral patterns, and you're invested in that, and you're connected with that, it puts everything else in order. So you start to the next one, the root chakra. You start eating differently. So you start eating for your ancestral. And remember what I told you, that not everything that our ancestors did was beneficial. They were going through their thing too. They were figuring things out just like you. They were going through human experiences. You know what I'm saying? So I believe in the dichotomy of things. So, but if you have to stand to reason the beneficial uh, um, um, food sources, your ancestral patterns that are beneficial to you today, because they also have experienced the dichotomy of nature. You know what I'm saying? And some lean more, what I'm saying? So that's all included in there. So you have to be aware of that also, and your genetic blueprint also. You know what I'm saying? There has been maybe some mental disease that have been through the family, but and that's the reason why it's very important when we're going to lead us up to the sacral energy center, and that genetic material and the story or the behind the scene of a particular genetic blueprint of a particular family of your mate. It's also very important when you get together, because you're especially if you're going to procreate and have children, and also you're exchanging this genetic material that affects also, the other centers that we have. So that goes to say that, um, that's that earth energy, okay, and how to balance that out. Then we got the root energy, which is your sustenance, what you take in. That affects also your genetic, your earth energy. But you have your sustenance, you have your currency, the amount of attention you put to something, and the currency, and then you got the banks, in order to direct those currencies or whatever, that energy and protection and stuff like that. And then you have your environment, your shelter, your environment, where you at. All of that is perfectly balanced. Is if you balance your eating habit, because your ancestral patterns are balanced, your genetic blueprints is balanced, so you know the right things to eat, and you're eating for your genetics. And then at the same time, it affects your environment. 'Cause remember, we made the analogy of how when you look at certain areas where people live and certain lifestyle. I've been to people homes that have been very organized and very, very, smell good, very organized, very calm, very serene. And then I noticed their eating habits. Their eating habits were on par. You could tell by the eating habits how it affected their environment. And I've been in areas where people have just been slobs, apartments and houses, and their eating habits, terrible eating habits, McDonald's and burger. So it affects that energy affects you know what I'm saying? That balancement has to be implemented there. You know what I'm saying? In order to balance that particular root energy. Okay. And then that root energy affects also the genetic blueprint also. You know what I'm saying? Because you can create new DNA, new genetics. Blueprint is a blueprint. It could be altered also by the foods you eat, by the environment you live in, and also the amount of attention and currency that you have affects also that ancestral, that earth energy. Now we go up to what we call the sacral energy. And that's, let me pull up my notes. I made notes so that I don't dance or ramble on and on and on. And that energy, which is called the place of the self, right? In Sanskrit, they call that sacral energy the Vadishana. If I said it right, I don't know. Vahishana, I think that's correct. And that one, it translates as the place of self. Okay. Um, so maybe later on the podcast, I'd like to talk about the self, and how to, the skills and what sages and yogis and masters have spoken about when they speak about the self. But this is the energy center that is about your identity as a human. You know what I'm saying? This is your identity as a human, the way you initiate this particular energy. It identifies your humanity. You know what I'm saying? And what you do with that energy. You know, this energy center is responsible for bringing your creative energy to help enrich your life. This is where creativity also comes from. And that's gonna segue into like that whole WAP and that whole, um, and remember I told you this is gonna be for grown folks only, so it's gonna be explicit. WAP is wet ass pussy, and that's that new Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion video that they did. And we're gonna break that down a little bit because we're gonna show you this. This is nothing new. This is something that's ancient. They're just resurfacing it all over again. And this particular energy center is the home of your creative life force. Okay, because this is where like procreate. This you need this center where it's around your lingam or your yoni, which is in other words your phallus or your penis, and what they call the yoni, your vagina. This organs, it's creativity because it procreates. You know what I'm saying? But this center also deals that organ superimposes this organ and is also the energy source that you have. It's the reason why music comes from here, and we're gonna demonstrate that too. And drumming, you know what I'm saying? Um, and we'll go over that in a few. So this is the energy that motivates you to enjoy the fruits of your labor, including indulging in pleasurable things like sex and intimacy. This is it. You know what I'm saying? This is the one that directs that. This is the one that where this energy it motivates you, you know? So it's represented by the color orange. So remember I tell you I eat in colors. So you have a lot of oranges and stuff like that in order to balance that particular energy. I like to eat in colors. You know, lately I've been eating sweet potatoes. Is orange on the inside. So you eat orange foods helps in a way balance it. You know what I'm saying? Um, when you feel balanced, when that energy center is balanced, then you will relish in the pleasurable things that life have to offer without overdoing it. That's the key. Without overdoing it, you're going to relish in the pleasures that life has to offer, the pleasurable thing, but you don't overdo it. That's when you notice that it's balanced. You know what I'm saying? And like for instance, sex, good food, and creative activity that will be inspiring and enjoyable. Okay, and you will get a sense of wellness and abundance from them. So a good sex life equates to a balanced energy center. Good food, pleasurable food also balances that energy. And also good music, vibration. Remember, we're multi-vibrational beings, multi-dimensional, and one of the dimensions is vibration. Because remember, dimension is something that could be measured, and you can measure frequencies. They have different frequency measurements. You got the 440 hertz, they measure by hertz. It's a measure. So let me not get too excited about it in here. So it's like when this particular energy center is balanced and you feel this abundance, and it affects also your earth. You feel an abundance in terms of genetic blueprints. Everything is satisfying. Your food sources, everything is satisfying. You're enjoyable. You're reefing. You're benefiting from the pleasurable things that life has to offer without overdoing it. That's the key. Every center, even down to your earth center, your root center, and the sacral center, every center, your heart, everything comes with a responsibility. Responsibility, your freedom comes with a responsibility. When you're free and you're vibing, that comes with a responsibility, and we're gonna go over that one day. So um when you have this center that becomes a little overactive, overwhelming, you could face things like addiction and gluttony. If you notice people that are not, don't have a great sexual life and doesn't have, they tend to eat a lot, the gluttony, because they're not balanced in that time and with sexual activities, you know, and also addiction. Addiction is a big one too. People become because it's not balanced. You know what I'm saying? And it could be a lot of times that's been traumatized when they were young. So that created an addiction later on in life. It manifests, or gluttony is another form of addiction. And pleasure is a good thing. You know what I'm saying? You should never feel guilty for enjoying the good things that life has to offer. Never. So when you're not invested in that, then it creates this very uncomfortable environment and circumstances for you. If you find yourself enjoying things that aren't nourishing to your soul and that is not healthy to you, your body, then most likely that energy center is out of balance because you're leaning more to things that are not nourishing. That's what I'm saying. That when you balance one, everything should fall in place. That means if you balance that earth energy, everything should fall in place genetically. And the beneficial things of the responsibility of the beneficial thing in that one affects your root, and you're eating well. Your currency is being protected, is being well. You're responsible for that, responsible for your environment. All of these things leads up to the sacral energy, and you could throw it off balance, you know, and the symptoms of that energy being out of balance would be again addiction, obesity, hormone imbalances, and restlessness. You know, restlessness. So you have to be aware of that. You know what I'm saying? You have to treat things when you notice obesity and addiction, stuff like that, and you have to really look at the root of it, and you got to look at the relationship that these people have with themselves and with others, and the intimacy that they have. You know what I'm saying? And so some of the ways you can balance this energy is that it's helpful to draw energy away from the pleasure into your heart. That's one. That's one way. But we haven't gotten to that particular energy center. So we're gonna put that away a little bit to the side and speak more and more and more on that. But however, you ask yourself a good way to balance and to strengthen that energy center would be to ask yourself, excuse me, whenever you're ready to do something, you ask yourself, if what I'm about to do is it good for me? Is it healthy and nourishing? What are the benefits of the action that I'm about to take? That's called the touchstone of positivity. And that is when whatever you're about to sense or whatever you're about to partake in, you have to ask yourself, is this good for me? If is it going to nourish me? You know what I'm saying? What are the benefits of it? And that's a good way of strengthening that energy balance, that balancing and strengthening that energy center, you know. Um, Also, taking time to assess whether your actions are healthy is a great way to draw the energy away from that particular center. So that's a way, they say that there's two ways to conquer desires. And that is one by engulfing yourself in that desire so that you don't want no more, which can be a little dangerous, or totally abstinence, drawing away. I prefer to draw away from that desire instead of, because when you go into a desire and you start heading into areas, right, you have to be very careful because it can turn downwards. Instead of being uplifting you, it could turn downwards. In other words, addiction, obviously. Like for instance, there is and that's gonna segue into the Kama Sutra and also left hand sex magic. Okay, and let's keep it real. Let's keep it 1000%. Kama Sutra, it's a Hindu way of an Hindu ancient way of dealing with this particular energy center. There also is in the British Museum, there is Kemetic papyrus, that have explicit sexual positions and and hieroglyphics that also speaks about sexual energy. Okay, so the ancients practiced the sexual energy. They were very invested in it. They understood the importance of it, and they understood how it can affect your environment. It can affect everything around you. And so the Kama Sutra, and I have the book here. Kama Sutra. Let me say, I got a big book on Kama Sutra. Kama Sutra goes all the way from how to prepare it and how to. It's a way of life. How to prepare it, how to live it, and some of the things in there I agree with, or some of the things in there I would extract and bring it towards my way, my sexual practice, or my passage, my way of living, my human experience. But then some of it is I don't know. I'm not with it because I understand. And when you're young, you experiment a lot when you're young, and you live out a lot of these things. So that's the reason why Kama Sutra addresses a lot of these things. Like for instance, one of the good beneficial Kama Sutra, which is called Kama Satra, which is the preparation, is that it prepares a woman's sexuality, and it shows her how to become more pleasurable and more enticing and more desirable by a man. And some of the skills is, if you read Kama Sutra, some of the skills, it's like 64 different and even more skills that a woman, as she grows up, and she should be taught by another woman, a maiden woman, or a woman, an elder, should be teaching her these things, would make her more desirable to men. For instance, simple things like crocheting, sewing, learning an instrument, learning about finance, record keeping, um, learning how to adorn the eyes, learning about tattooing the henna on the hands, learning art, right? Learning how to adorn the eyes, learning how to use the eye to entice them. These skills are important because it makes a woman valuable. It makes a woman very valuable. There are things also for men to learn also. The art of gallantry, fencing, boxing, even crocheting. If there are many things that a man can learn, sewing. There's many things that the young people should learn so as to make them worth something, desirable. You just don't want a woman or a man that doesn't know how to do anything, can't even cook, can't do nothing. All she want to do is lay on the log, here, bang me, and that's it. But she don't know how to cook. She don't know how to sew. She don't. Even the man doesn't know how to protect. Doesn't know how to finance. You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing about Kama Sutra, is that it has a section in there that addresses this. It's the prerequisite to marriage, or prerequisite. This is your financial or fiance stage that two couples should be invested in. They should be learning skills to either together or on their own. On their own. And today's time, you got Zumba, you got yoga, you got things that women do that makes them desirable. And there are things that men do that makes them desirable, makes them worth. That's what Kama Sutra addresses. These are ancient practices that has, in one way, has been taken away from our society today, because our children today, there's many children, especially in the hood, you have many children that learn a lot of things, like karate, sewing, baking, pottery making, and stuff like that. That's great. And you do have some of those things that survive, but then you don't have, and that's the whole idea of going to also They had to include this in schooling in high school, what they call home economics. Home. I think it was home economics, something like that. But a lot of these courses and a lot of these attentions was taken out of the systems, and now parents are so busy in their own little world that they're not invested in what to create a sound person in a young child. So this is good about Kama Sutra that it addresses these things. You know what I'm saying? At the same time, how to approach a young virgin, that's important. How to, yeah, how to courtship. It's also mentioned in Kama Sutra. Good points in there. Like for instance, if ever you are about, it's customary, and I've seen it played out too in the hood. It's customary for a man if he wants to have intercourse or wants to entice that woman, usually it's not a good idea for a man to just approach the woman. Like let's say you're in a club, don't approach her. You always send a friend to approach the woman and to introduce you and say, "Hey, listen, my man over there, that's uh protocol, or that is a safe way of um, of 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 how will you say it? That's a safe way of manipulating your way, or invest, or becoming involved. You know what I'm saying? A lot of time good relationship works out with people introducing other people, because it's usually, that one person introducing, you know, they see you from the outside and they see that person, and they want to match. It's called matchmaking and stuff like that. Now they're doing that internet wise and whatever, and I don't suggest that at all. To be honest, there's some people that have success in that, but I don't. I think in the traditional way, you go somewhere where there's a bunch of young people or single people, and then, like I said, you always have somebody with you that can introduce you. That's just protocol, and I've seen it happen, and I've seen, that's human experience. So Kama Sutra goes into that. Another thing that Kama Sutra does is that when you get to the point of intercourse, certain men's lingam or phalanx are different sizes. And just like the woman yoni, vagina is of a different size. Sometimes if the man's penis is too large, it can, and the woman vagina is too small, that's an uncomfortable experience for some women, unless she's invested in pain, and pain is offset by pleasure. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of women, it's becomes very uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? And excuse me. And vice versa. If the man penis is small and the woman has a large vagina, um, then it's off balance, right? But now Kama Sutra shows you certain positions to offset that. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter really the size, it's how you use it. But you have to be knowledgeable and skillful enough, and the woman too, to know that certain positions are going to create certain angles that are able to hit that spot, and vice versa. If the man's penis is so large, there's a certain way the woman could position herself to open up. Because remember, a woman could birth a child and come to that canal and open up. So there are certain skills, and that's why they have you squat and they have you pull your knee back. There's certain positions that allow you for that, and then there's certain positions that allow you to take a man who is not so big, that his penis is not comparative, is not the same as yours. You happen to be a large and he has a small one, but there are certain positions that the man can hit the wall a certain way of the vagina, and still you get pleasure out of that. So that the Kama Sutra, in the book Kama Sutra, it's good because that's beneficial. It's good knowledge. It speaks about that. But then the part about the Kama Sutra that you have to be careful, like I understand, it also mentioned about kissing, the different styles of kissing. And when you're young and in your teenage, and I remember back in the days, the doo-wop music and the red light, and then we all have our girl that we were going out with and say, I'm going out with this chick, and then you all are there in the sofa on the side of the room, and you're necking or kissing or making, what do you call it, making out, right? And you're learning about making out and different things and all of that. But the part that I wasn't too fond of hickeys, what they call, and that in the Kama Sutra it mentions that as biting. There's certain things that ways that you can bite on the human, on the neck, or on the women, or the women on the man, on his phallus, or whatever. There's certain ways you can bite and leave a mark. Sometimes it's pleasurable and sometimes it's not that pleasurable. So I wasn't one who was invested in hickeys and stuff like that. Also, my moms didn't agree with that. And I used to see these girls. That was a way of her showing that she was taken, or she was. You're putting yourself out there. I used to wear girls in high school with hickeys on their neck and all that stuff, or guys, and you say, oh yeah, either he got some or he's got somebody nipping on that neck. You know what I'm saying? And that's called biting in Kama Sutra. So it has a whole chapter on that. So Kama Sutra addresses certain things. Now I always say this: whatever you do in your household, in your bedroom with your mate, is your personal business. No one. You can do whatever you want to do behind those closed doors. Nobody's business. Nobody should be in your bedroom but you and your mate. Not even your kids. I don't allow any of my children to be here. Or the only one that really comes in here and would lie down with me and talk to me and be around me more is my grandson. You know what I'm saying? Because of the situations we're at right now. But I got my grandson, but then he stays a lot with his grandmother. So he's not here. I'm here alone. But I don't allow, you know, my children, if I'm here with my mate, and this is not even my mate, this is my area. And if I want to have any sexual relation, then I would have to entice her and try to get her into my room. And then whatever happens in this room is between us. And there's many things that you can do privately. There's people that do things privately. Look at the um there's people that have a culture, especially multimillionaires. Look at that. What is that? That movie, 50 Shade of Grey. I liked it, that movie, even though I'm like, damn, that's kind of explicit. That's kind of rough. You know what I'm saying? And invested in that type of, but it's a turn on. It's enticing. But like I said, if you into that and you're both equal and you're both are in agreement with those practices, then by all means, that's your personal thing, you know. And you gotta also, there's a saying that says you could tell by the way a person handles life by the way he handles his bed. You know what I'm saying? If a person is organized in life, that because that person, when it comes to sex, is an organized person. Kama Sutra mentions that also about how to light up incense. You see, that's a part I like. You light up incense, the lighting is right, the music, the tone is right. You know what I'm saying? And the incense, the aroma, everything, the sheets, you could use different colors, white sheets, or if you want a softer pastel color sheets, and you address the room a certain way as to have a favorable environment. Okay, that has a lot also to do with the root energy too, how it links up with that sacral energy. So you create that environment that is favorable to when you are engaging in this energy, in this sexual energy. Pleasurable, and you make things pleasurable because at the same time it's safe. It's safe. It's at the same time pleasurable. And then, like I said, some people like pain because they understand. Some people are invested that pain brings pleasure, and pleasure brings pain, and those are one of the laws of of natural nature, which in reality, it's a law. It's constant and it's true. You can be so much invested in pleasure, like I said, when you overdo pleasure, that it's going to bring about a pain in you, an addiction, a gluttony, or something, with your organ. It's going to bring, right? And then you could be a person that experiences so much pain and this and that, but in a moment, everything turns, and then you have a sense of pleasure, in pleasure, you know, and also like orgasm, the pain of wanting to burst out or not controlling it, and then all of a sudden, the minute it busts, you get that orgasm, bye bye, big pleasure. Wow, you are walking on cloud nine. Men can also have orgasm too. Well, men always have a quicker orgasm than women. And the most important thing is when you have that relationship, you create a favorable condition area where you both know each other and you both know what turns you on, what's going to get you to the point of climax. And you want to also be conscious of that, of each other. The man is quickly to become into climax. So the woman's job is to have him hold back and have skills to make him hold back. Push your scrotum back. Do something. Have him hold back so that when she's ready to burst, then he's ready to burst, and boom. Must I say anymore? You know how that is? You know? And that's when you experience things like that, those are the pleasures you relish in the fruits of your labor. You come home, you take care of yourself, you got your currency, you have your environment, you have, what I'm saying, you eating well, you doing you everything, and then the next thing you know, your sexual practice is on point, and it's meant to energize that center so as to also energize all the other center. You know what I'm saying? So, when it comes to the Kama Sutra, there's things in there. And when it comes to sexual practice, get to know. The most important thing is intimacy. Get to know your partner, or get to know whoever because remember, you're exchanging also genetic material, genetic blueprints with that person. Ancestral patterns are being exchanged when you have this. So that's all. Also, you have to be responsible and knowing that you don't want to get and start procreating or getting together on a daily basis. That's how you see some relationship. How it works is that you could be sitting down, a woman sitting down on Sunday, she has an attitude, and she's looking at you like, "Damn, I just woke up to damn. This is what it's all about." You know what I'm saying? That's a lot of time. That's ancestral patterns and blueprints of talking back at you because there's something out of balance. It talks back and says, "Hey, listen." And for instance, marriages. I've been to weddings that one side of the family is on this side, and the other side of the family is on. Next thing you know, there's a fight break out between families. Most likely, that relationship, that people getting together, divorce in a couple of years doesn't work out because that genetic blueprints here and that just is in clash. You know, I've seen that played out. You know what I'm saying? That's so important to get to know. That's the reason why a woman would bring her man to the house. She's engaged or before engaged, the man has to make sure he get along with the in-laws. Make sure he gets along with that family. Next thing you know, they start introducing him to the family. And next thing you know, when the family are able to relate with each other civilly and get along with each other, that relationship usually works out for a very long time. It's a good relationship, a good marriage. And that's important. Very important, you know. So that's how that affects, you know, that affects that energy center. So that energy center, is affected by the earth center and the root center too. If you have a bad diet, most likely your relationship The environment, your relationship, it's not gonna work out. You're gonna have a lot of problems. A lot of problems. Because once you have a bad diet and certain systems is out of whack, certain organs are out of whack, like your kidney or whatever, you create attitudes and stuff, and next you know that affects your environment. It's all interrelated. You know what I'm saying? So in this energy, the sacral energy, which is the sexual energy, also creativity plays a very important point in that. Music. This is the energy center that can be stimulated by drumming. That's why in certain cultures, before when the couple is getting ready to have intercourse, that after the marriage, you hear the drummer, and there's a drummer that walks them into the hut or whatever, and you see that drums and the clapping and noise, and you see them going into the hut and getting ready for their intercourse. And then of course, music plays an important point because if you're having intercourse, you want to play certain music that is going to set the mood. You know, you're not gonna put. I don't know. They're funny in this day and time. They'll put something out there, bitches and hoes and all type of shit while they're having sex. I don't think that's a good, favorable in frequency. I just don't. I mean, it might work for some people, but I don't know. I don't see that. I don't see that as being invested in creating a stable relationship. Now, something like, for instance, music. There are music producers and music people know that music, the original music, the inception of music in the human experiences has a lot to do with the center. When you look in ancient Kemet on the walls, a lot of the musicians, the women had a sheer type of material where you can even see the body, the nakedness and the form of the body, because music, from the word like amusement park, to muse somebody is to muse them, pleasure, pleasurize. So a lot of time the pharaoh or the king or whatever was sedated or sort of like pleasure. The vibe was set with the musicians in court or the musicians playing instruments and set the vibe. So as the pharaoh or the king have all his maid servants or wives or concubine, whatever, in the room, and then that's where he'll go and he'll pick one that he wants to have intercourse with, the one that is, I guess, is standing out, he's vibing with at that moment. But music plays a very, very important point. One of the main music that I seen the progression that I love was Marvin Gaye, Let's Get It On. That whole album deals with sexuality and also sexual healing. Marvin Gaye got to a point where he understood this. He understood the relationship music has with sex, with that particular energy, creativity, which is sacral energy. You can make the connections. Just think about it. You can make the connections. You know what I'm saying? Musicians are known to have more sex than anybody, to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? Just like being creative. Also athletes too, but musicians number one. Number one. And that's an industry that uses sexuality also. It uses that. It's invested in sexuality. Um, so music like that. Back in the days where when you're young, you're a teenager, like, they used to do wop. Back in the day, we listened to slow music. Slow down music. Even up to the '90s, it was slow music. Even today, there are certain music that are slowed down and that has a sexual type of connotation to it. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what music was for, to It was pleasure, it was pleasurable, enjoyable, pleasurable. It's just sometimes in Europe was like that also until you had certain courts, kings, that music had to take a different form, expressions. As it grew, music became to express itself revolutionary, and and this and that. It became expressed in many other different ways, propaganda and things like that. So that's the difference between, you know, that's the progressions of music. But originally, music was a sacral center energy construct. You know what I'm saying? And that leads me to segue into this whole WAP thing going on with Cardi B and Meg The Stallion. WAP mean wet ass pussy. When you look at the video, I seen the video. When you listen to the words, they all understand. You see, the ones that are directing these music, these music corporations, are owned by certain families and certain corporations that are owned by different banks that owned by different families and dynasty. This is a 10-year-old dynasty, and what they did is they know about the Babylonian dynasty. They invested in that. They invested in ancient Kemet, Babylonian, Roman, Greek, and they understood how music and the sexuality and how it went on hand in hand in hand. So when you look at this video, WAP by Cardi B and Meg The Stallion, you see this being played out. Is these women took it back, back, back to its original form. When you look at blues, like for instance Bessie Smith, and you look at the video in blues, Bessie Smith, where was she when they filmed that blues that she's famous for and singing and back into the 1920s? I think she was in a bar. What do you think goes on in a bar? The pleasure of drinking and the pleasure of sex. You know what I'm saying? So even blue, and also a lot of the women, slave women, were raped by their European masters, and a lot of time they had to work, and a lot of time in order to pacify their mind, in order to them to forget that shit, I'm birthing these kids by this slave master. I'm birthing his children in order to get a certain status. I'm birthing these kids, the lamenting, the moaning, and all of that, and they converted that into the songs. Just listen to the songs and listen to the cry, what they call the blues, because something traumatically was happening, and to offset it, to muse the body and to pacify the mind and the spirit, music, that form of music was birthed. Jazz was birthed in area like, oh, give me that jazz. Jazz was at that time the code word for marijuana or drugs, heroin or the underworld. Jazz was the code word. And so a lot of these clubs where jazz was birthed was in clubs where the liquor, the spirits were taken in. And they were becoming, with the spirit, they were becoming, free with themselves. And as sexual intercourse. And that come in speakeasies, Charleston. You look at the progression in music and you always see a sexuality involved with it. From jazz, from every genre, you know. Rap, when I recorded the first hip hop record with Funky 4 Plus 1 More, these guys, it was in the clubs. They were rocking the club. There were MCs in an area with a club, and the one who was rocking the club and making that party pop was the one that was getting the women in the club. And when you have your center, when you appear in a club and you have a balance, and women can sense that. You're coming in and you parking your Lamborghini or your Porsche in the front. You're coming in with the thread. You know what I'm saying? You got the wad of money and you laying there. You're buying drinks here, buying there, and you got your man with you, your co-rider with you. You know what I'm saying? Women see that. That's usually the one that's gonna leave out of that club or that party with a thotty, what they call thot, in his arms. It's just that, you know, it affects, it's linked up. So to balance this energy, you don't have to be like that. You know what I'm saying? You could be a stable man, responsible. You know what you're eating, your environment, your currency. You invested in that. You know your genetic blueprint and everything. And then you don't have to be in these clubs or whatever. You can, or you could be in a relationship with a woman, and you build on that. You have to make sure that that's the stage of fiance or fiancier. Fiance is you'll have to now figure out, hey, listen, if we're to take this to another level, we got to make sure that we're progressing and that this is taking, we got to build a foundation. You have to be fond of each other. Foundation has to be there. That's when you become fond of each other because you're seeing that there's a foundation that could be built, and then but you have to build it, and you have to be cognizant of that. And that's what it helps. Kama Sutra helps a lot of times with that when you read it and you reason that out, and also ancestral patterns. There's certain cultures that's already in there. You know what I'm saying? So so I just want to end this to an end because I'll probably go into it a little more. But I just want to say that this particular energy, sacred energy, is your energy, your creative energy, your sacred energy, your creative energy. It's the pleasure of things in life like sex, good food, things that bring you pleasure. Balance that. Don't overdo it because it's gonna lead you to gluttony or addiction, and knowing how to have that balance. You know what I'm saying? It's an important. All of them are important, and they all interrelated. And you can see it when you start thinking it out, and you start seeing how it plays in your life. And to all the single people out there, you're only single because you haven't found a person at the present moment. But there are other ways to have a good sexual relationship. For one is you got to get to know your own body. So I'm not against masturbation. Masturbation is a savior. Sometimes you get to know, and you get to know how to pull back the skin and how to hold a scroll. For the women, you get to know your point and what turns you on. But that also can become addictive. You know what I'm saying? It can lead you on another path. But if you're gonna invest yourself and you're going to be in a sexual relationship, learn how to be responsible with that. Make sure to balance that energy. You have to ask yourself, if what I'm about to do, is it going to be beneficial? Is it going to be good for me? You know what I'm saying? Think about that. Is this going to be beneficial? Is it going to be good? And in all areas, in all areas. If you think that you're going to just pay for it and get it thinking that's that, but guess what? You're going to want to always pay, depleting your currency for that. You're creating another avenue. You know what I'm saying? There's ways to when you open up all the other channels, energy centers, you see all this fall in place. That right person is going to come by for you, who is at the stage and the what they call the development stage that you're at. You know what I'm saying? And you want to, for one, you'll see how, well, when we get to the throat, the communication and all that stuff, we'll see how all of that also is very important when you're dealing also with that particular energy center. And it's about creativity. Come up with creative plans. Come up with creative ways so that you both could enjoy the pleasure, the benefit from the fruits of your labor, benefit also, and engage in pleasurable things that is going to enhance human experience, because it's about enhancing also your human experience, and sex, pleasure, all of that, and even music, tone, frequency is part of it, a big part of that. You know what I'm saying? A big part of that. So I hope I cover up some angles and stuff like that, and like I said, I care for everyone because everyone wants a baby, and we all come from this birth, this inner, and we all experience triple darkness and experience the 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 breaking of the cavalry of the womb and coming, and we all partake of this beautiful oxygen and air. You know what I'm saying? As to help get rid of those toxicity in our bodies. And I'm gonna do a podcast about COVID-19, and not to and it's not taking sides or anything. It's just laying out right in the middle what's, you know how can we benefit from this, and what to look out, signs to look out for, how we don't want it to sneak up on us and rick and sneak up and what is it, reef havoc in our lives. You know what I'm saying? So that's going to be a very important discussion. But right now, you know, responsibility. Before I go, remember everything. We have to be responsible for these energy centers, and that sexual energy center. You have to be responsible in the same time. You have to really think to balance that. You have to think, reason, and say, man, if what I'm about to do, is it going to benefit me? Is it going to nourish me in any way? Is it going to be beneficial to me? And not like a quickie. If that worked for you and you think this quickie is going to benefit me because it's going to take away, but then don't overdo it. I'm not against that. I'm not against the quickie or anything like that to release certain. And if you feel that you have some restlessness and the energy has to be released, and boom, boom. But when it comes to building these centers and building a lifestyle with somebody, it takes more than that. It takes responsibility. Responsibility is huge. You know what I'm saying? So that's all I want to leave you with, and I hope that this um from here on we can explore more and more and more. I suggest explore the Kama Sutra and the Kama Shastra. Read that in, and then on the next podcast, I'm going to talk about how this energy and how it has affected our environment, and how it is that energy could be used as a weapon or as a healing agent, and how to, how it is a wand, or yeah, it is. We'll talk about it. Okay. Well, anyway, peace, love, and blessing.